Hi, Jeff Spira here again, and today I'm going to talk to you about how to build an Albion Pacific Power Dory. This is probably one of my most popular boats. It's a 19 by 7.5 foot, let's say, um, Pacific Power Dory, very popular build. Um, here's a very nice one built in the Northeast. And this one was built in Louisiana, and it's got quite a cabin on it. You can see it even has an air conditioner in the cabin, so you can do that kind of thing with it. This one is in Cape Cod. Actually, it was built in California, and then the builder took it to Cape Cod since he switched jobs and used it in both places and loved it there too. Now you can keep these pretty simple. Here's one that's basically open. It has a thwart seat in the back for tilt or steer. As you can see, this one was done in Alabama, and it was very simply done. Now, a lot of builders like to put center consoles in them. It makes it easy to drive, easy to control. It's got plenty of room to walk around the center console, and typically they have a seat forward on them. It's a smart thing to do. Now you can doll these up, of course, and put some of the cool fishing stuff on them. Like this one has a hard T-top that the owner built along with you can see an instrument cluster up high where he puts his GPS or that sort of thing. I have my radar up there when I had one of these size boats. I had a radar panel up there. It made it convenient to see while you were moving along in the fog and kept your head up, and so you could see anything that appeared in the fog. Here's one with a small cuddy cabin. This one is taken with a selfie pole. Guy was testing out his cruising speed with a 40 horse motor on it. This is a cabin, a stand-up cabin that you can put on it. Now this cabin comes with all of my boat plans. It's in the ply-on frame. It's included as an accessory in the ply-on frame manual. And he built it exactly according to the plans that I give. Didn't modify it. It fits nicely on this boat, and a lot of them are used in the Pacific Northwest and Alaska and places where it rains a lot and the operator needs to get out of the weather. Like I said, like I mentioned, Alaska. This boat's in Alaska. It's good. It's good for all kinds of water, not just the Pacific Ocean. I mean, it's good in water all over. But this one's in Alaska, and this one is actually built by an Australian who lives in Cambodia, and his name is Aussie Rob. He's a pretty famous guy, and he's married to a Cambodian woman, has a couple kids, and but I guess that's not the Pacific Ocean, is it? That must be the Indian Ocean that has been in Cambodia. Um, anyway, this one's in the Atlantic Ocean. You can see there's a North Carolina stickers on it. So they're very good for coastal use in ocean and flat water. Or I shouldn't say flat water. Good for um, freshwater or saltwater. This one here, it's got Alabama tags, but it was actually the picture here is taken on the Florida Panhandle, where this builder has his vacation house, and he likes to go dig for scallops and take his dogs out and have fun in the Gulf of Mexico. In any event, it makes a good fishing boat. It's a good, wide, sturdy boat, and it's great for fishing. This builder uses it for commercial fishing. So happens that I think that's in the Chesapeake Bay, and he uses it for netting whatever he's catching there. Most people just use it for general family fun. This one was built by this gentleman. He's from Massachusetts, and this is actually at the Wooden Boat Show in Mystic, Connecticut. The Wooden Boat magazine has a show, and he won Best of Show for a home-built wooden boat there. He's 80 some years old, 82 when he started it, and 84 when he finished it, I think, and uses it in the New England area. So now this is a Hurricane Michael in 2018, and this was actually in Mexico City, which was one of the hardest hit areas. There was 160-mile-an-hour winds, and that tree actually took down it broke through that garage that's next to the boat there and landed on the Albion here. And there was actually no damage at all to the boat, just some paint damage that had to be fixed up. That was it. So let's take a look at how you build it. You start by laying out the frames. I show you how to do this in the Ply on Frame manual, and they're drawn out. I dimension each frame for you, so you have a picture of it in the drawings, and then all you do is lay it out. It's very simple to do. Because all the frames elements are straight, very simple to do. And then you screw the bottom frame to the side frames, and it looks something like this as you progress. Here's all the frames. You can see they go together to create the shape of the sides of the boat. This is the transom. Now, if you notice, the transom is built from edge glued frame elements. So they're all butt joints here. This builder used screws that go in at a diagonal. It's not really necessary. The way I typically build these is to lay wax paper down and then glue the frames, on the ends there, and then clamp them, and I just hold them to the piece of wood using clamps, so they hold together until the glue dries. Then the real strength comes when you put the actual plywood over the back end of the gusset, and you glue it all to all the frames and screw it in, and then that gives it the gusset strength to make sure it stays very stiff. You can see I use a 2x8 cross member that holds the engine. That's really your engine mount, and then there'll be 1/2 inch or 5/8 ply on the outside of that. These are then assembled on what I call a strong back, and the strong back is just a 2x8 beam that you set up, and then you attach the frames to the beam, the transom, and then each of the frames moving forward get attached to that beam and raised up to a certain level that I give you on the drawings. So it makes for a long row of beams or of frames. Now each of the frames are cut out, as you can see in the center, for the keelson, and that's a 2x8 on the Albion here, and you kind of angle those cutouts to make sure the keelson can get bent and is flush to the frames, and then you glue it and screw it in place. Now, if you notice, those cutouts are wider than the keelson, and that's intentional. Those are called limber holes, and what it does is it allows water to flow between the frames in that gap in the middle. There are chine logs. The frames are notched, and then these chine logs are added to the intersection of the sides and the bottom, and this gives you a good place to screw in your plywood, both on the bottom and on the sides. So it gives you a good sturdy end point where you can attach it. So, and they're bent around and then notched into the stem and and the keelson, as you can see there. Here's a better look at it. The sides are then, now I show these as, I don't give you the specific dimensions for the sides. They're just laying in place, and then you scribe around them with a pencil. You use your actual framing to determine the shape of the material, so that it fits your particular boat. If you make any minor errors in your framing, then the sides, if you pre-cut the sides, they might not fit. So the time to do it is after the chine log and the shear clamp are put in place, and the keelson's screwed down, and the whole frame is fully assembled and glued, and the glue dries. So now then you can put on the sides. You begin by framing the sides. And this is what it looks like when the side planking is on. You would trim it after you put it in place. You cut it a little big and then trim it to fit. And then you, when that's complete, you put on the bottom, and it's done the same way. You lay the stock up there and use the existing structure to make sure that you cut out the bottom to the right, width and length and all that. Typically, it's seamed along the center line of the keelson, so that you get the most that it supplies a good surface for you to screw it in and match the two sides. So, and then you can see the front part is just a triangular part that's added there. So now you would go around and actually sand the planking, and round the edges, and make sure the bottom is trimmed well into place. And you can also fill the screw holes. If you look, these screw holes are filled with a combination of what I used to call dog food. It's really just epoxy resin that the two parts, and then you mix in sawdust with it. If you want, you can use talcum powder or microspheres, or there's other things you can use, silica, to make a peanut butter sort of mixture, and then you use that as a filler to fill the cracks and the screw holes where you would run they're typically Phillips or square deck screws in to hold the frame, the planking in place, and then you would run in below the surface, so you fill that hole and you can't really see them when you're done. And then you would fiberglass the outside of the hull. On this hull, I typically would recommend 2 layers of 6-ounce fiberglass cloth with epoxy resin, epoxy laminating resin. That's for most of my smaller boats, that's the way I would do it. You could go more, you could go 3, or you could use 10-ounce if you wanted it extra sturdy, but typically 2 layers of 6 ounce is plenty. And then you need to sand. Sand, and sand some more. That's the trick with these. It's going to take a lot to get them beautiful. Again, I get bored at sanding, so mine don't come out gorgeous. But if you want it to look like a yacht, you need to sand plenty. So, and after you sanded it, then time to put some paint on it. I would put a layer of primer first, and sand that down, and then make sure that it's all filled and it's all pretty, and then put your top coat on top of that. Next, it's time to flip it over. Easiest thing to do is get half a dozen of your buddies and bring them over for a boat flipping party, and bring a case of beer along so everybody can kick back and enjoy it after they've done it. It's actually a lot easier than it looks. I've got some videos of one guy and his wife flipping over a 20-footer. So it's really not, it's not as tough as it seems, and the boat is not at all delicate. Now, this guy built a little, you can see he built sort of a little carriage to make sure the sides didn't hit. But if you've got some, let's say, old tires or something that you can put flop the edge onto, and then it'll flop over on, then that's good enough. But there again, it's a pretty easy job to do. Then it looks like this. This is an Albion that the owner had completed the outside and flipped it over. Now, you can, if you look here, he did not create he did not add a shear clamp to it, and he used an external shear clamp. So he didn't. He left one of the elements off of it, but it's still probably just as good. Now, typically, I would typically recommend that you put a chine log in it, and then you complete the boat, and then you would add the outside rub rail later, because you want to put it on after the glass so you can remove it. But this builder did it his way, which is perfectly good. I like it. Any way you would like to do it is okay with me. Then you start working on the insides. The insides are probably as much work as the hull. People want to put decking in it and different features like center consoles and all that sort of thing, and electrical and batteries and all kinds of gear and that sort of stuff. Now, some guys keep them really simple. This guy just has some basic thwart seats in it, and some guys like to get fancy. This one's well decked, and very pretty wood that's built in here. And then you throw it in the water, and that's what it ends up looking like. This is that one that was the best to show. So it's a beautiful job. Now, if you wanted to see more on the Albion construction, I have I think it's 10, or it might be more. It might be 20 videos in my insider section. It's about 20 hours, I think, of actual construction done by Mark Vickers, this builder here. He's built 4 or 5 of my boats, and a great guy, and he's a great explanation of it. He built this green Albion, I think, in 10 days, and he did it because he was headed on a fishing trip and he wanted a new boat, and he wanted to build a new one. So he sat down with his camera and a pile of wood, and in his driveway he built this beautiful Albion. So it's a worthwhile watch. If you would like to build one, you can watch those videos. Just join the insider section, and there's a link down below on how you could join. And then it's all free to join, and then you can look at these 20 hours of videos of how he built this boat. So he shows you a lot of interesting tricks of the trade that he's learned over his years of building many boats. So it's worthwhile. Okay, well, listen, I'm going to show you a picture of this boat. This builder was a great guy. I spoke with him a number of times. He passed away a couple of years ago of cancer. But he also built his on the Gulf Coast, and he used it for having fun with the kids, and also for he did some shrimping with it. He used the shrimp skim nets. And that's what the deck in the back is for, is so he's got a place to work his skim nets. And he just did it for fun. I don't think he was in it for a living. I think he was a boat captain, I think, but he just liked shrimping and catching shrimp for the family. So, but I've got a picture of this boat running that I'm about to show you, and it's running with a 25 horsepower. So you can see these boats don't take a lot to get up on a plane. He's got his 4 kids in it, and he's cruising along a river in South Alabama or Eastern Texas. I'm not sure which, but it's anyway. It's a nice watch. So have a look at this. Also, please do subscribe to this YouTube channel and hit the bell so that you get notified of new videos that are posted. If you're interested in any of my boats, please go by my website, and it's got lots of great stuff on there. It also has an insider section where I've got additional information, and you can freely download the manuals that I talk about and such. All it takes is you joining and putting in your email address, so I have a way to get a hold of you. But please do that. And again, thank you very much for watching.